the one thing that I added to this version of the baseline indicator are these 5 groups of buttons. And what they do is they temporarily change the parameters of the baseline. They will reset if you change the currency pair, or if you just open up the dialog box. Like here, I've moved that to 44 and on the hull, and it's supposed to be at 40, and it will reset it to 40. This is just so you can go in and not have to open and close the dialog box a lot. Find a setting that you like. You can see the setting, then open up the box, and you say, okay, I like hull 29 better. And you can just go change it to 29. And so anyway, they just temporarily change it. Every time you change the currency pair or open the dialog box, it'll reset back to whatever is shown in these values here. These buttons, what they'll do is they'll change. You can see this is the period. This one's assigned to period up. This is period down. Period's getting less. You can see it over here changing. It's right over here. And these are the 4 buttons for the ALMA moving average. First button is the period, up and down. Second one is the sigma, up and down. Next one, this one here, is the offset. And then this one here is the negad. And then the last one is the percent filter. I'll just show you. You saw what the period does. This is the sigma, what it does. This is the negative add. But you can see it just does it in real time. Last one, or this next one is, or this one's the negative add, sorry. And then the last one is the percent change. And we can zoom out a little, see how it... And you may notice the dots will get smaller the more you zoom out. These sets of buttons don't work for every moving average. Almost the only one that has 4. For example, I could just put a simple SMA up. The only one that works, because it's the only variable, is the period. Clicking these won't do anything. Switching to a comma. This one, you can see it. The first set is the period. Second one is the fast. Third button is the slow. And then the fourth one is the percent value. So, if you're just wanting to, it really just saves a lot of time of opening and closing the dialog box, which I got tired of doing. And the other thing that I've added is, you'll notice here, this HL is the high and the low of this candle, for example, is 25.4 pips. The distance from the moving average is 72 pips. Current ATR for this candle is 61 pips. The minimum ATR, which is set, you can set it and change it inside the dialog box. And then this last one, DR, is the ratio of the distance, the current distance from the moving average down to the close of the current candle, divided by the current, or the ATR for that candle. And that's what this number will represent. So a value of 1 or greater than 1, then you're not supposed to trade, for example. And it'll just let you know how far, like right here, this, I'll just drag this over. This candle here, it's showing that this candle is made at 75% of the way of the daily ATR, which if you look over here for that candle is 55. current distance is 0.75 of that 55, or 41.49. I might as well just go through some of these here. This I added because on some of these, especially the ALMA, if you're using the percent filter, it calculates a lot. And if you don't need it going back 2,000 candles, you can set this. You can use this if you want, or you can just have it calculate if you're back testing and want to make sure it goes all the way. You can just set this to no. If you're using a high percent filter value, and say you're using the ALMA moving average, if you have this percent filter like at 3, which is pretty high, depending on the starting point, if you set this to only go back not far enough, it won't draw the moving average correct. So if you're using a high percent filter value, like on the ALMA or the comma, I'd actually just not limit this. I would just say no. I'd leave it where it's at right now. It's pretty self-explanatory, I guess. You select which one you want here. There's the period you can select, the basic applied price. And then these are just miscellaneous parameters. First two are for the ALMA, which is this one. Have it set to this one. These two will affect, this is where you set the default parameters. Next one is for the ALMA. These 4 are for the ALMA. Next one's for the comma. These 3. And so on down. Okay, I guess we get down here. Y'all probably want the dot, but if you don't, you can turn it off. The Atr parameters, this Atr minimum not met notify enabled. What it will do is, if the minimum ATR isn't there, it will turn this value down here, this ATR and minimum, it'll turn a magenta color, letting you know that it's under the ATR minimum. You can select which mode you want the ATR minimum to operate in. You can select user mode, which is basically you're just setting it at a pip value. And if the ATR is below that pip value, it will turn it magenta. It'll turn this text line down here magenta. If you use the auto select mode, then it just uses that algorithm, which is the average of the ATR values. This one is set for 200. And it's using 0.8 of whatever that value ends up being. That if it's under that value, and you can change it to whatever you want, obviously you can just type it in. But if it's below that, then it'll again turn this magenta colored. The next thing, if you want to show the weekly ATR value along with the other ATR value, you can do that. Some people use it for targets, but if you don't, just leave it no. And also you can set the percentage, and you probably want to leave this, that if you do use the weekly candle, you don't want to look at the current week because it's not accurate. So you're going to look at the candle before. And the screen parameters, like if you don't need these buttons down here, if you don't want this line and these buttons, then you can just, this show buttons thing, you set it to no. You can change the distance value. You can replace it with the difference between the open and the close. It'll show that value instead. The view mode, which is basically, this one is set to view under the current mouse, or you can select it to the right-hand side. It just shows the candle at the very rightmost side of the chart. And the rest are, these are colors. This user color, this fits over the ATR minimum, but it's under the distance is less than 1 times the ATR, then it'll turn it green. And then these here are ATR multipliers, like if you wanted this to be 0.8 and you wanted it to be, maybe you want that to be orange, or maybe yellow or something. And then the next one, if it gets to 0.9 and you want it to turn yellow, and you could do that. So if this text here that is currently red will turn orange if it's 0.9 of the current ATR, if the current candle's distance from the moving average is 0.8 of the daily, or of the ATR of that candle, and so forth. So, I got tired of seeing all the different colors, so I just left it at red. And it just, when it gets 1 times the ATR above it, it turns red. But if you want, if you want to add more colors, you can do that. So, and then the rest is pretty, just the basic screen parameters. If you don't like the buttons on the right-hand side, you can set this to right lower, and it'll switch the buttons. They'll be on the left-hand side. This status window it's pretty much going to be in the center of wherever you put it. But I'm actually making this to work with the, here, let's scoot this over. With this, the trade finder, these values here are going to be the same values over here. They're going to be the same moving averages over here. So when it's completed, it will find, or it'll let you know which currencies here you have listed are currently crossing the moving average. Okay, this one, right now, where it's set to the pound CAD, and it's saying that it currently is below the baseline by 16.19 pips, which it probably is. That's probably 16.19 pips. And if you walk through this thing, now it's above the moving average by 3.1 pips, etc. So I also have, this is the vertical line thing. You can add a vertical line. You can just, if this is that would probably be a trade, for example. This is not my algorithm. This is just to give you the idea of how the pieces work. And when the system is completed, this is, I think it'll be pretty easy for people to use and understand. But anyway, as far as the baseline, this will probably need to be updated. So just to let you know, there's probably some bugs in here. But for the most part, it will probably save you a lot of time in trying to find your particular baseline that they may be interested in finding. So that's it.